Morning, y'all. Jordan, another episode of Lightning Latest. Nice day outside, but we got quite a few things we're going to break down. The next couple days, we're going to talk about the Bolts opening night matchup with the Ottawa Senators. That's why this says Senators big as well. And we're going to talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of the team and how the Bolts are going to match up with them. Right now, two things really. Number one, they're kind of dealing with depth issues the same way we are. We tried to address that with Holmberg, with Pelletier, by re-signing Goncalves, by re-signing Gord. Might continue that. We're probably going to have to continue that next summer as well, as we've been discussing. So they really need to address those issues. Can off-season additions like Lars Eller and Jordan Spence help with that? They should. But, you never know. Anything could happen. It's hockey, right? They also lack a true number one top line forward. Now, it's kind of funny to say that because even though they lack that, they still have quite a bit of talent. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But they don't have that true lockdown number one guy like the Bolts really have two, right? In Gunsel and Kucherov. The Panthers have Bennett. They have all these players. All the contenders have these players that can help them propel an offense forward and get stronger and be better. Luckily, we don't lack that, right? We do have those top tier offensive talents, but they have to stay healthy. That's important, and it's gonna be an interesting opening night lineup from both sides, really, because is their depth fixed? That's probably way too soon to tell. But hopefully the preseason gives us some indication of how it's going to look moving forward. Now we're going to be deep diving, though, into our first position. We talked about this yesterday. Goaltending, right? We have currently on the roster the GOAT, Vassy. Ooh, love it. And, his backup, Johansson. And we talked about over the last few days, maybe they should have signed a Jake Allen. What would a Sergei Bob look like? All of these pieces, and we're going to be discussing some more goalies here in the future. All of these pieces could be interesting on this roster, but right now this is what we have. Vassy's under contract for 3 more years. He's going to be a free agent again at 34. Not again. He will be a free agent for the first time at 34. We don't really know who's going to replace him right now. It's still quite a ways away, but, we need to start thinking about how we're going to preserve him over the next couple years, and that's why I advocated so hard for Jake Allen. There aren't really any goaltending options out there that would be better than Johansson as the number 2. James Reimer's a good vet, but he's pretty old. I don't think he would really be, it would be kind of like not even a 1A, 1B situation. It'd be like a 1A, 1C situation where you're not going to get too many starts for Vassy, but if we can give him a few days off a year, at least a few more, should help preserve him for the postseason. So if Vassy misses time, though, can Johansson handle that starter's workload? I'm not sure. A lot of people aren't sure. It should be interesting to see if he could. Remember, Vassy did miss time a couple years ago, and then Johansson stepped in for the first few games of the season, and so on. But it was just okay. He kept us afloat, which is nice. But sometimes the thing about Vassy is the reason why he's one of the best is because he doesn't just keep us afloat. He wins us games, and that's what you want from your goaltender. And Johansson probably can't offer that, but you never know. Hopefully we won't even have to find out. Vassy will just handle his normal starter's workload, kill it, and Johansson will be a solid backup. Maybe that's all we need. Hopefully that's all we need, because there are other areas in this team that have to be addressed that are more important. However, there could be some potential trade targets. We'll be discussing those over the next few days as well. Free agency is there's not too much out there, but restricted free agency next year and unrestricted free agency, there's a lot. So next year we'll be going into the year with 2 years left on Vassy's deal. What's that going to look like? Do we start to really pursue, a viable successor Or do we, ride it out Vasi if he's still playing strong? Free agent at 34, that's not bad. We can still sign him for a few more years and let him retire here. I'm sure there's so many people that would love for that to happen. So tomorrow we're going to be discussing the defensemen. So we're going to continue this trend of, stopping our opponents. I personally love defensive hockey, so I hope you guys do too. But we'll talk about it tomorrow because we're going to slide back into our boy Jacob Pelletier, his deal. I'm a big fan of it. It's 3 years, so it's not really the biggest gamble per se, He's going to be a free agent again at 27 unless the Bolts re-sign him before that, which is highly possible. Let's say he absolutely kills it this year and earns an extension. Can happen. He's still pretty young. He's only 24. He's should improve the third or fourth line depth. Remember, last year, our biggest Achilles heel really was that depth, right? We didn't have that scoring punch in the third and fourth pairings. If we can get that punch in this year, then it's highly possible we could beat a team like the Panthers. We could beat a team like the Hurricanes, all of these other contenders for the Eastern Conference title. It would just be so sweet if we could, right? But we need those young players, those third and fourth lines to be better and to be stronger. The lack of punch is not acceptable, especially in the playoffs. We need to score. If Goncalves can step up, if guys like Pelletier can step up, Pontus Holmberg, which we'll be discussing in the next few days again, there's just so many different ways and opportunities for these young players to really contribute and be the best they can be. The offense, though, there's so many ways we could improve it, right? Even though we have a really good first line of Gunsel, Kuch, and Point, there's always could be an elite center out there we could sign. We could sign another winger that would bolster the second line. Anything that can really, if we bolster the top, we're really bolstering the bottom as well. And the key is to have those scoring punches in the playoffs, especially against these tough teams like the Panthers. They beat us the last 2 years. Why? Because they can outscore us. Need to be able to catch up. And if we can, that's great. Speaking of catching up, though, we talked about the Panthers, right? They have re-signed Bennett. They've re-signed Ekblad. They've re-signed Marchand, right? They're keeping that team together to go for a third straight cup. We got to stop them. So, this is going to be an intriguing what if, all right? Jason Robertson as a Bolt. Remember, he's with the Stars, right? Young guy. Young guy's going to be a restricted free agent next summer at 26. All right. If his play continues to improve, though, he's going to be in line for a massive raise and a pretty hefty extension. But that's the question. Will the Stars be able to swing it? It's unlikely they'll let him leave. But, we're going to talk about another restricted free agent of theirs for next year tomorrow. And it's just money talks. The good thing is the cap is rising across the league. We talked, a couple weeks ago about the Bolts having, they're going to have almost $30 million in cap. What do you do with that money? How do you spend it? We're going to have to resign some of our own free agents, of course, but there's still plenty of money to kind of spread around. That's the thing. We discussed, having $12 million to really go towards that McDonough, Bjorky, Moser, maybe $14 million towards that group. That's great. That's still, at least it's another $14 million to play with. Would Robertson be worth that kind of money? Yeah, it's possible. If he explodes this year and continues this growth and getting better in general, I don't see why he wouldn't be worth that. Mitch Marner just made $12 million a year. Now, is Robertson on Mitch Marner's level? No. Chances are, will he make $14 million a year? Probably not. Probably closer to like $8, $9, $10 million a year because we have to continue to see that progression into a true superstar. But the thing is, he's already basically a superstar. He's young. He's going to probably play great hockey for the Stars this year as long as he stays healthy. And he's one of the reasons why they have continued to stay in the Stanley Cup race. Now, a lot of these bills for the Stars will come due next summer, so there's a possibility he could leave. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. But at the same time, he'd be such a great addition to our team, especially because we're looking for that. Remember, we talked about, right? The next wave of players to replace the current stars we have. At some point, Hetty's going to retire, McDonough's going to retire, Kucherov's going to retire, Vassey's going to retire. They're all going to leave, right? And then Point will be like kind of the true leader of the team, along with hopefully players like Inkalvis, right? Like Gunsel, like a Connor Geeky, right? That's what we're looking for. JJ Moser. We want these next wave of long-term players to come up, and that's why a Jason Robertson will fit. That's why hopefully Jacob Pelletier will fit. So tomorrow, restricted free agents, another one I'm really excited about, and we're going to touch upon more. But we have quite a few things we're going to discuss tomorrow as well. We're going to continue to riff on the Senators and their biggest strengths, another deep dive, another what if. We have so many different things we have to cover still, and we're still a few weeks from preseason. There's so many ways this team can improve still, and I'm really looking forward to breaking them down with you guys. So it's Jordan with Lightning Llanes, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.